All right, on the phone with me is Rhett Miller, lead singer and guitarist for the old 97's. Good morning, Rhett. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you, Russ?
I'm pretty good. So, just talking to you here, I hear I'm catching you before you take the wife on vacation. Going anywhere special?
We're going to Hawaii, where we got married 6 years ago, and we're going to hang out on the beach with no kids.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to make nice before I got to go on tour for like a year.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, I'm skipping ahead of my notes here a little bit. But you said you got married in Hawaii. Is that by any chance where the inspiration for "She Loves the Sunset" came from?
Yes, actually it is. I didn't write it in Hawaii. I actually wrote that song in the wake of 9/11. My wife and I had lived in a apartment right by the Trade Center, and we ran that day as it was falling, and we never got to spend another night there because we were too close. We were in the zone there where they wouldn't let us go back. But we fled to Ohio and spent a couple of weeks in Ohio where I didn't have a guitar, and it was driving me crazy. So I actually wrote that song, "She Loves the Sunset," using a little Mexican marionette that was holding a güero, like a fish-shaped
Nice.
Percussion instrument. But it was about an inch long. So the only instrument I had when I wrote that song was a tiny little, güero percussion instrument that I used. So, but it's about my wife. She loves the sunset. She loves the cocktail bell.
Well, Ohio is the Hawaii of the Northeast, so that's fitting.
Yeah.
So you're going on tour. I got to say, no Buffalo date yet, but the last time you were in town was for our Thursday in the Square, and that was my
I'll never forget that gig.
I was going to ask you about that.
It was a great gig to begin with because there were just so many people, and I live not too far from there now. I live down in the Hudson Valley. And but it was great to be like sort of in the region close to home and to have such a good turnout in a city where I didn't know really what to expect. And then of course the capper was when the hot chick that jumped on stage and was dancing. She was so great. She was so like uninhibited and had the best time. And then at the end of it, she pulled her friend up on stage and she and this other girl made out. And it was like it's on YouTube.
Yeah, I was going to say it's actually up on YouTube right now.
I thought about putting it on like our website. Hey, come to Old 97 shows. This is what happens.
Right. You never know what to expect.
I know. And just for the record, if she's listening, if either of those girls are listening, you can be on the guest list whenever you want. No funny stuff. We're all happily married men, but you can dance on stage probably.
Well, I was going to ask about that because you're all married. You got the family thing going on. How do you balance that?
Oh, it's not easy, but I don't know if it's easy for anybody. It's just It's life. I'd rather be doing this than have a 9-to-5 job somewhere. And I think my wife and all of our wives would probably rather have us doing what we love than getting our brains beat in every day by some corporation.
I hear that, man. I got an advance copy of the new CD. Haven't been able to stop listening to it. It's incredible.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
That's so great to hear. It's funny, you make a record and then you have to wait 4 months before it comes out. And those 4 months are like agony because, like, especially in this record's case, I think it's maybe our best record, but definitely up there. And I just have been waiting for people to hear it so that I could bask in the warm glow of their praise.
Oh, I hear you. I mean, the record's called "Blaming Out Gravity." It really is. I mean, you hate to say it because anytime a new album comes out, you say it's the best thing we've done yet. But to me, before this, "Satellite Rides" was probably your best commercial sounding album. But I really think this tops it.
Yeah, thanks.
No problem.
Thanks. I think so too. I mean, it feels great to be at this far into our career and finally getting it right. We're like late bloomers.
Well, yeah, I tell you. I mean, since the last album came out, you've had your last solo album, the second one you had the Greatest Hits album, the live album. You guys were featured in The Breakup, which was a great movie, and that was a great feature for you guys. You even had a Chili's commercial.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, was there extra pressure on this album to be, that much more special?
Every record there's pressure for me because I just, this is my life. This is my life's work, and I don't want to squander it. I had a manager once not long ago say, "You've got about one more record where you'll be cute." Like the clock was ticking, and I don't really think of it like that, but I do know that you only get so many records where people really care about what you're saying, and really listen, and I don't want to squander any opportunity, and so yeah, I felt like I had to push myself and push the band. I felt like each band member had to push themselves, and and I think it really paid off.
Yeah, it's a great collection of work, and it's one of those CDs that the more you listen to it, I think every time you listen to it, you find a different song you like that you connect to. It's very relatable. The one thing I wanted to ask about is because you and Murray kind of trade off vocals on a few different songs. Murray's got a couple of great songs on there. How do you decide who gets to sing each song? How do you split that up?
Oh, we sing the songs we write. The songs that I sing, I wrote all of the songs that I sing except My 2 Feet. Murray and I really co-wrote that. And the guys will tweak them here and there, and they'll have little ideas. But typically I'll bring them in, part and parcel. I make the whole song is done, and here you guys go. And Murray's songs are the same way. He brings them into us. And we all listened a lot to our producer, in this case, Salim Nuralla, this guy out of Dallas that I predict is going to blow up and be one of the big producers to come out in the next few years. And he did great. He's an old friend of ours. He played in my band, The Instigators, after my album of the same name. And it's just, it was just such a great, family feeling making the record. But, yeah, I sing my songs, Murray sings his songs, and, every once in a while we'll collaborate.
Yeah, you go back to your solo work. You had your second solo album, The Believer, come out, and which I personally was a pretty big fan of, and it definitely was a little bit of a break away from the old 97's. I've always been curious how you do something like that. How do you decide you're going to do it and tell the band that you're going to do a solo album and still keep the band together? How does that work?
Well, that's a tricky thing, and not many bands have pulled it off. So, when we went into it with some trepidation, but I felt like I had to do it. When we were making Satellite Rides, there's something about being a part of a democracy that is simultaneously, great and liberating, because you can sort of defer to the greater organism, but at the same time, oh my God, I'm not good at getting told no, and I was getting told no so much. So I told the guys during Satellite Rides, look, you can say no to all these songs and all these ideas, but I'm gonna have to make a solo record, or I'm gonna go crazy. And I think they understood that it made it possible for us to keep the old 97's together. And I think that now that we've made it over the hump, basically, and they realize that I can do solo records and it doesn't really threaten the future of our band, I think that, we may be able to keep doing this for the rest of our lives, knock wood.
Yeah, right. Knock on wood, indeed. So the new album, Blame It on Gravity, it's got some great lyrics in it. I think one of my favorites, just an observation, is and the song Ride, when you say from the 101 to the Tappan Zee. It's just such a more creative way to say coast to coast. And, I just appreciate that kind of creativity. I'm wondering for you, which do you take more pride in, your lyrics or your melody?
For me, it's lyrics. For me, the melody is a vehicle to get people to listen to the lyrics and to get people to dance and come to the shows. And, but for me, even when I listen to music as a fan, I just love lyrics. And conversely, if somebody's, thrown something down that they really don't believe in or care about or haven't thought about, it drives me nuts. Bad lyrics are a pet peeve of mine. Although that said, nonsensical, absurdist lyrics can be great too. Like you listen to T-Rex and the Pixies. Those are lyricists that I really admire, but they were writing very weird, abstract, goofy lyrics, but at the same time, they were moving and effective. And to me, that's all it's about. It's I don't think, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but poetry isn't really a viable art form anymore. You can't go write a bunch of poetry and have anybody care about it anymore. That said, if you put it to music, if there's some melody, to make it, to sweeten it, as it were, make it go down a little easier, boom, people are suddenly listening to your lyrics, and what would have been a poem without a little rock and roll behind it is suddenly, an acceptable art form.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. It really is a shame that you really can't reach people the same way that you used to be able to through poetry. You can't be artistic because, unfortunately, people, I don't know if we're too lazy now or, they just don't want to take the time to figure it out and think it through. But, I think you guys do a great job of keeping it artistic, but still relatable, like I said. I'm curious, so you mentioned a couple bands there, T-Rex, the Pixies. I'm wondering, because we are a classic rock station, what kind of classic rock bands influenced you?
Oh, gosh. My biggest hero during my formative musical years, early teens, was David Bowie.
Ah, nice.
I was something of an Anglophile. And, I guess he counts as classic rock. He probably doesn't get too much rotation. But yeah, for sure, you know, I was a big Bowie fan. But growing up in Texas, you know, you're around a lot of stuff that's, you know, whether you're totally into it or not, is, you know, very influential on you as a, you know, just a budding musician. The first record I ever bought was ZZ Top, and we did a gig with them recently, and I stood on the side of the stage going, "This holds up, man. This is, you know," you know, I know obviously some of the Eliminator stuff gets a little annoying, but
right.
but ZZ Top was a pretty great band.
Oh yeah, so, you go back to Trace Hombres and stuff like that.
Exactly. Del Fuego and
oh yeah. No, we definitely play a lot of Bowie. I mean, I tell you, one song that I can never stop listening to is Rebel Rebel. For as long as I live, it's one of my favorites.
That's funny you should say that. That was the first Bowie song that I really got into, and I got into it through Joan Jett. There was one of those, you know, concert series on a Sunday night, and you know, I stayed up late when I wasn't supposed to with headphones on listening to the radio, and Joan Jett covered Rebel Rebel, and must have been like 82. And it was so rockin', and I couldn't believe it. And I went back and discovered Bowie, and you know, and that was it, man. You know, Hunky Dory and Ziggy Stardust and all those records changed my life.
That's so funny that you say that. I mean, I knew about the song before, but I was reintroduced to that song VH1 when they used to do that fashion show. I forget what they called it, but I saw a duet for that song done by Lenny Kravitz and Iggy Pop. It was great. It sounded great.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, it makes you go back and listen to the original all over again.
Exactly. It's such a simple song, too. I mean, it's just, you know, it's funny because it's not that far removed from folk music, you know, or traditional American music. You know, it's just, you know, a few chords, you know, a set of lyrics, you know, just a quick little story, a hooky little melody, and you're out. And I love that. I mean, to me, if you get too complicated, I mean, sure, I've seen Radiohead, and I think they're great and everything,
right.
But I like it when it's pretty simple. You know, I like it when you just keep it simple and push the buttons and hit the spots and try and do something that's a little different from the people that did it before you, so that you're not just, you know, a hack reworking the same little stretch of road. But yeah, I mean, I like it. I like classic rock, man.
Yeah, I definitely hear you on that. I mean, I kind of have to. It's my job. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason it's still around. One thing I've always felt with you guys is that you never really stuck to a genre. You know, I mean, it's funny. You look on iTunes and one album's under rock and another one's country, another's alternative. Is that a conscious thing? Do you try not to stick in one area, or is it just the way it happens?
Well, it's funny. In the beginning, Murray and I were doing a bunch of bands that were straight up rock and roll, and this is, you know, early 90s, and it was around the time Nirvana was breaking, and we were doing something not too different, but it just didn't feel right. It sort of felt like we were trying to succeed instead of trying to succeed in making great music, you know? And so we broke it down to what was important to us about music and just started a band that was a simple, you know, folk-based acoustic band. In the beginning, we had no drummer, and the whole idea was we don't care if we get signed to a major label. We don't care if we get a huge following. We're going to make music that makes us happy. And then the irony being that that's, of course, the band that worked for us, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, it's for us, I don't know. And then we get lumped in with alt country, which was fine at the time because, you know, I guess it was pretty true. Our first couple of records were pretty rootsy Americana. But then it started feeling like something of a hair shirt, you know, like this thing that we had to wear and we couldn't take off. And so I think that for a couple of records we really fought against that, you know, and tried to make records that were, you know, prettier, poppier, you know. I mean, I guess that ended up probably sounding more commercial too, which on Electro Records probably wasn't the worst thing in the world. I know there was some griping from fans, but it worked in a way because we were able to, you know, to keep our band together and to keep going and to keep it interesting for us. And we were also able to an extent to break out of the you know, the ghetto that is alt country. I just felt like it's a reductive tag, you know. It's kind of insulting to say this is what it is. And especially when you live in a world where most people say, I like all kinds of music except country. And I don't blame them because Nashville's been putting out such reprehensible garbage for years that it takes all the shine off that great old country stuff, you know, the Hank Williams,
Merle Haggard,
Willie Nelson, and Merle Haggard, and the stuff that is legitimate and real, and it's not redneck, and it's not, backwater, and it's not racist or whatever, all these other things that people wind up thinking of when they hear the phrase country music. So, I mean, yeah, a lot of what we've done over the years has been a reaction to what's been put on us tag-wise. But, in the end, you just got to try and write songs and present them in the best way possible, I guess.
Yeah. Now, going back that, talking about your own songs, when you had mentioned hearing, Rebel Rebel done by Joan Jett, and that was your introduction to that, do you ever feel, because that is a great way to be introduced to a song as far as, a young, impressionable person, is through a cover. If it's a band you already like, it opens you up to somebody else. Do you ever feel that responsibility maybe to cover a song in concert to introduce somebody to some, a new artist they might not know?
Sure. I mean, I don't know if I'm introducing people to new artists necessarily, but, I cover some Bowie songs. I cover a Pixies song, Wave of Mutilation, especially when I play live, solo acoustic, all by myself with no band. I just did a recording of a couple of shows in Los Angeles that I'm probably going to put out a record of all covers. And,
nice.
There's some stuff on there that I feel like people are going to be so familiar with that maybe I shouldn't be covering it. But then I catch myself and I think, well, maybe there's kids that don't know Waterloo Sunset. Maybe they don't know Ray Davies' songwriting catalog. And I'm going to introduce them to it. And that would be great, man. Jeez.
Yeah,
if somebody learns about Ray Davies and Waterloo Sunset because of me, then that's like, I'll go to heaven for that.
Well, good luck with that. We're kind of talking about technology. What do you think has been the most helpful technology to you guys expanding your fan base?
Well, it's true that when we started was right around the advent of internet forums and chat rooms, and I think that in the early days of the old 97's, we really benefited from that because our fans tend to be, a little bit brainy, a little bit literate, probably able to run a computer pretty well, and we got, I think we got a lot of word of mouth, electronically. I don't know if we've maximized that over the years. I see some young bands now that work the internet like it's, the most important marketing tool, which I'm sure it is. And I've never been super savvy at that. I don't know that I've ever been a super savvy marketer at all, really. But if I was really savvy, I would have taken that clip from the Buffalo show and put it at the opening thing you see on the homepage to our website.
It's not too late. You still got a chance.
Not too late. Thank God for girls.
Yeah, I say that every day. So I'll start wrapping this up so I can let you get on vacation. I'm just curious. You talked about playing with ZZ Top. I'm wondering who has been the biggest thrill for you to play with, share a stage with?
Oh, gosh. Well, for me, I got to meet Elvis Costello not too long ago, and that was pretty amazing. There's a band called X that was really huge on the West Coast in the 80s, a punk rock band. And they were really influential to me and the other guys in the 97's. And getting to, befriend Exene and John Doe from that band and getting to do gigs with them and record with them, that's been a cool thing over the years. There's a very obscure, eccentric Englishman named Robin Hitchcock, who I'm a huge fan of and have been, since I was 12 or something. And he's become a friend over the years, and he actually helped get my wife and I together when we fell in love.
Oh,
we were in London, and we went to a party at his house, and he kept saying, "Oh, you're such a lovely couple. You should be a couple." And we're like, "Well, she has a boyfriend, and I've been on a couple of dates with her roommate. It would really be awkward." And awkward be damned. We wound up, falling in love and getting married, having 2 little kids.
And that's where the song "Designs on You" came from, right?
No, that song was actually predated her by just a couple of months. I think it was prescient. Although I did write the song "Question" the first night that we hung out together, and I hadn't admitted to myself that I was falling in love, but I did go home and write my most romantic song ever.
Yeah, I mean that's a great one. Now, is that one of those songs that you are pretty much going into a show that you have to play it? Yeah.
There's a handful of songs that I always know I have to play.
That one and "Come Around."
Hi, Buffalo. Hi, Buffalo.
Hey, how you doing? Now, who is that?
That was Max, my 4.5-year-old.
Nice. But yeah, I would think "Question" and "Come Around" are pretty much staples for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Those, and then the 97's have a bunch of songs. Hey guys, get inside, your feet are going to get wet. Sorry, my kids just came out.
Nice. Well, I tell you what, there was one question I really wanted to ask you, because you said you're in New York now. I know you guys are so rooted in the West Coast and in Dallas. Was that a big decision for you? Were you worried about that at all?
No, because at a certain point, it's sort of, I'm on the road so much that where you're based, it could be anywhere, you know. And my wife's family was willing to move there and not willing to move to L.A., which is where we lived when she got pregnant. And honestly, as anybody out there with kids knows, you need help.
Yeah.
So thank God for them. They live right around the corner from us. And we spend a lot of time down here in Texas still, too, which is where I am right now, at my mom's house. Get a lot of help from her. And it's good, man. I mean, my wife was a model, and I'm a rock and roller, so neither of us ever really wanted to wake up early or subjugate ourselves to anybody. And these two little people, they're like, every day they need to be fed.
What's up with that?
So,
yeah.
I know. Relentless.
Well, the new album's Blame It on Gravity. I'll end it with this question here, Rhett. If you were going to introduce someone to the old 97's from this CD, what's one song you think you would pick out for them? I know, sorry.
Gosh, that's tough. I mean, Dance With Me to me epitomizes what we're about. I know it doesn't have a train beat, which is such an integral part of our sound, but it's got that muscular guitar riff from Ken, which I think is classical 97. It's got really great drums, which are sort of Tex-Mex, which I think we've done over the years pretty well. Murray's harmonies are so sweet and subtle, and I feel like my lyrics are pretty quintessential for me. They sound a lot like what I feel like I do best. I make a creepy little story with a couple of characters that you want to like, but they sound like they're headed for a bad end,
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's probably what I would pick. Either that or the one, because you kind of set up everybody, one by one in that. But Dance With Me is a great single. I hope you have a lot of success with that. And the album, again, it's Blame It on Gravity, Rhett Miller from the old 97's. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.